Good morning, DS4HS. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another session of Data Science for High School. Today what we're going to be talking about is an introduction to expanding our Python vocabulary, and what we're going to do to expand this vocabulary is review built-in Python error and warning messages. Now, some of these error and warning messages can be cryptic, but they can also be extremely helpful. Now, if we look back of what we talked about in previous videos and lessons, we talked about Python and its data science libraries can be viewed as a language with three important things: vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. Now, what we're going to be doing in this lesson is we're going to expand our Python vocabulary by only focusing exclusively on the built-in Python error and warning messages. And this is going to be very important for your Python development. Now, another thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to apply what we have learned about Python keywords to extract specific sets of error messages. And what we're going to do to extract those error messages is we're going to use for loops, if statements, and something called list comprehensions, which is a very cool and powerful Python construct. Now, this presentation on list comprehensions will demonstrate and show us how powerful a small little change, a small grammatical adjustment to Python code can be. So it's going to show us the power of that small little grammatical change. Now, as always, let's make this come alive by doing hands-on work. So right here, we're going to have, just as Python has a well-defined set of keywords, Python also has a standard set of error and warning messages. They are stored in a standard Python module called built-in. So we got to call built-in. So first of all, let me comment it out and uncomment it. So I'm print dir, and then in the dir we're doing built-in. Okay, now let's take a look at what's inside this built-in module using the dir function. So built-in is a module, and the dir function is calling that module, and printing it is showing us what's inside the built-in module. Now, boom, it shows us all the error messages and all the warning messages. Now here we have all these error messages, but guys, if you see, there's not that many. There's really not. I mean, it looks like there's a lot, but there's not that many. There's really not that many. It's not like it's a list of infinite error messages and warnings that scroll to the bottom of a page. Nope, it's only these right here. And 80% of them you'll never encounter. So it's not that bad. And this shows us that it's not that intimidating. Python only has a set number of error messages and warnings, which is really cool. Now, let's use and get into some of our Python keywords to extract specific messages and warnings. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to use the for, in, and if Python keywords, and we're going to show what they do. Now, notice for these keywords, they come up in dark green. So here we have the keywords, but they're in dark green. So right here, for, dark green, in, dark green, if, dark green. Now, functions are in light green. So dir is a function and print is a function. They're in light green. And now the string is in red. Okay, string is in red. And here we have a method in blue. So here, dark green, keywords, light green, functions, blue, methods, and then red, strings. So it's just a cool way of IPython and Jupyter Notebooks to kind of give us some nice visualization of what's what. Now let's finally notice the grammar and syntax we're going to use for the for and if statements. Now here, each of them end with a colon. So right here, colon, colon. And now if you look at it, everything's, as you go farther down, it's indented. So when you have a colon here, that's saying, hey, this is also part of this whole function. So this is one whole line of code. So colon, and then if we have a colon, we need an indentation here, colon, indentation here. Because if we don't have an indentation, look, boom, we get an error. But when we do indent, boom, it works. And here what it does is says for I, so for every object in the directory built in, so every object here, if the object ends with, so the ends with method, warning, so if it ends with warning, it has to end with capital W, warning, then print that object. So that's what it's saying, and bada bing, bada boom, that's exactly what it does. So it's saying for every object in that list, if it ends with warning, then print it. And that's what it does. See, everything here ends with warning. Now, let's apply some other things we learned and some other additional Python grammar to convert this for loop and if loop into something smaller and into what we call a list comprehension. Now, a list comprehension is a new concept, so let's not get too flustered or frustrated. And if you ever get confused or lost, you can go back, slow this video down, and we're also going to go into list comprehensions further in later videos. So don't get too hard on yourself if you don't understand it right now. Now, it looks complicated, but once you master it, it's very, very easy. So let's check it out. So here, we assign it to a variable warning list. Now, notice how I rearranged my for loop and if statement from the previous cell and remove the colons in one brief line. So instead of having the colons, I just have it in one line. It makes it easier and cleaner. Now, the list comprehension created a new list from its output and assigned it the name warning list. So we made a list and we assigned it to the name warning list. Now we're going to print warning list and see what comes out. Boom. And now it gives us everything it gave us up here, but in a cleaner, more condensed fashion. And it gave us it in a list. Here it didn't give us it in a list, but here it gave us it in a list, and it assigned this list to the name warning list. Now, let's perform another list comprehension to extract all Python built-in error messages. So not just ones that end in warning, all Python built-in error messages. Ready? Let me comment it out. So this is it right here. So so object for object right here, in directory, so for all the objects in directory, in the built-in module, if it ends with error. So everything that ends with error in the built-in module. Boom. And then we gotta print it. Uncomment it out, print. Boom. There we go. So everything that ends with error. And it's really cool. And it gives us a little list, and we assigned it to the name error list. It's very clean and condensed, so it's perfect. Now, let's modify our list comprehension so that it's able to extract all Python built-in error messages. And these error messages, we want it to start with the letter I and end with error. So we're going to have two methods here. Now, this is the same grammar of the previous cell, but we added a Boolean and an operator call an additional string method. Now here we have the Boolean and, but it's also a keyword, that's why it's in dark green, and then we added another method, that's why it's in blue. So ready, we're going to print it out, boom, and here it is. It gives us everything that starts with I, or ends with error, and starts with capital I. And there's about 6 of them, and it makes it into a list, and we made the list error list underscore I. Now let's review a new and commonly encountered built-in Python error message, the indentation error. For I, so let's do it right here. Let me comment this out, boom. See, indentation error. Expected an indented block. So it expected an indented block here. There was no indented block. Boom. Now it's going to expect an indented block here, and next time when we get the error message, when we run this, we're going to get the same indentation error message, but instead of it pointing to this line, it's going to point to the print line. Boom. And that's what it does, because it expects an indentation here. And we need to indentate it even more. See? It still expects it. It needs to be even deeper. Boom. There we go. And the more you go down, the more indented it needs to be. It's like a descending staircase. And then it prints it. Now, let's comment this all back out. Boom. Boom. And we're going to uncomment the 3 remaining lines. And it basically does what I just said. The same thing. But we'll go over it again. Since the print is not indented, it's not going to work. Then we indent it, boom, and now it works. So as you go down and down with the colons, so if there's a colon, you need to indent it. Colon here, you need to indent it even more. So you can't indent it once, you got to indent it even more. So it's indented from the line above. Indented from the line above, not indented from the top line. It needs to be indented from the line above. So yeah, I know it might sound confusing, guys, but you're gonna get a hang of it, and it's gonna be very, very helpful. Now, what you guys need to do is remember 2 basic but essential grammar rules. Number 1 is indent any line following a line starting with keywords such as for, if, and def, and ending. And the second one is ending with a colon. So those are the 2 things you got to remember. Now in this lesson, what we did is we expanded our Python vocabulary by practicing, and this vocabulary includes a set of built-in Python error and warning messages. But one thing you need to do is be more familiar with this error and warning messages. We will be better prepared to resolve them when we encounter them as we code. So when we code and we get these error messages, since you guys know what they mean now, and since we've expanded our Python vocabulary, we're going to be better prepared when we see them in the real world. And we also expanded our understanding of Python vocabulary and syntax by constructing a list comprehension. Guys, I know this sounds super complicated, but it's not, and just don't worry, you got to stick with it. You'll get a hang of it, and once you get a hang of it, you'll be super glad that you did. One thing that we want to stress up here is there's only a finite number of warnings and error messages. It's not like it's a language with thousands of words. No, no, no. It's only a finite number of words, a set number of words. So it's really not that intimidating. 80% of them you'll never really encounter. So yeah, you just got to get a hang of it. Keep chugging along. And this just shows you that Python is really not as intimidating as it seems. So yeah, and once you guys get a hang of it, you'll be golden. Will be golden. So yeah, this is expanding our Python vocabulary with Python error and warning messages. Can't wait for the next video. Bye bye.